I have seen a lot of very questionable British accents coming out of Hollywood. In this video, we're going to look at some of the best and some of the very, very worst ever recorded. So let's see what we got.
You're trying to build for the future. You must set your foundation strong. The laws of this land enslave people to its king. A king who demands loyalty but offers nothing in return.
What is this? This is like, I'm hearing, it's like a mix of Lancashire, posh London, and Scottish that's kind of morphing from one word to the next. I'm so confused.
You're trying to build for the future.
It's almost like a hint of Irish, the future. It's like he starts off in posh Southern English. If you're trying to build for the future.
Future.
Which is like some kind of, like I said, Northern Irish?
The laws of this land enslave people to its king.
It's kind of morphs into a sort of northern, it's like almost like you're in Lancashire or something like that.
A king who demands loyalty but offers nothing in return.
Demands loyalty. Now we're in this kind of posh Southern English again.
And I know, in tyranny lies only failure.
Tyranny. We're in Scotland now. What's going on? There is no good accent. There is no bad accent. At the end of the day, what an accent does is it's your identity and it leaves an impression on the listener. But I think the worst of all worlds is when you leave the listener confused for whatever reason. And if you've got an accent that's not quite right, but it's consistent, then it's believable. This just leaves me confused and I don't know what I should be thinking. So although every kind of individual accent that we see cropping up here is fairly good, the overall effect is pretty painful. I'm Olly, by the way. I'm a linguist and an author, and if you haven't noticed, I'm also quite British, so I'm pretty pumped for this. I love watching actors trying to get our accent right. The only question is, which accent? Well, I heard that the girl in this next clip actually fooled Martin Scorsese into thinking that she is British. Let's see if she can fool me.
When the train came speeding toward the screen, the audience screamed because they thought they were in danger of being run over. No one had ever seen anything like it before.
Now this is fantastic. I mean, not to mention the fact that she is, how old, about 10, something like that. It's a little bit like the first clip in the sense that very few people speak this clearly in real life. It's the way that you speak when you're recording a drama. But I think if I had heard Chloe here without knowing who she was, and you told me that she was a native English speaker, like, no question, I wouldn't have batted an eyelid. So I can see how she managed to fool Martin Scorsese to get this role. Very, very good indeed.
Dear friends, forget our dear friends, the cuttlefish. Pen them up together and they will devour each other without a second thought. Human nature, isn't it? Or fish nature.
From an accent perspective, this is absolutely fascinating. When I listen to Jack Sparrow, I'm hearing like 3 different kinds of accents going on. There's nothing typical about this. We've got both very, very posh British, like an upper class aristocratic British, and then we've got this kind of Cockney accent coming into play. And then we hear a little bit of South African coming. I think it sounds like South African or maybe like a hint of Australian or something coming in here. I heard that Jack Sparrow's influence was 90% Keith Richards and 10% Looney Tunes. So I'm not entirely sure if I agree with that. But let's see if we can point out just a few of these elements where the accent kind of ducks and turns.
Flipper Canary's little sausages.
Sausages. It's extremely posh. It's great.
Pen them up together and they will devour each other without a second thought.
Devour each other. So this is where it kind of goes into some kind of South African, Australian type accent. It's definitely not British.
Human nature, isn't it?
Human nature in it. This is where the kind of Cockney starts to come through. The interesting thing is, like, every single one of these accent inflections, even though it changes accent, each single one of them is very, very convincing. And so if I just listen to that type of that single accent by itself, like, it doesn't ring any alarm bells at all. So it's eclectic and surprisingly good. You know what's funny? Some American actors can almost pass as British until they slip up on a single sound or a single word and the whole illusion crumbles quite quickly. Well, that's kind of like trying to watch British TV from outside the UK. 1 minute you're enjoying your show and then boom, you're blocked. And that's where a VPN can save the day. I use one called NordVPN and they're kindly sponsoring this video. And what's so cool about NordVPN is that they let you easily access shows, movies, and news from 118 countries around the world. 118. In fact, I even had to use a VPN myself in order to be able to play one of the YouTube videos from this very video. It's like kind of giving your internet a flawless new accent. It tricks websites into thinking that you're browsing from anywhere you want, while keeping out those nosy hackers as well. So if you want to watch BBC iPlayer but you're not in the UK, well, it's easy. Just switch to a UK server and you're in. You need to catch up on some Brazilian dramas or French stand-up? No problem. It's also lightning fast, so there's no annoying buffering ruining the experience. And the best part? Well, right now you get 4 extra months free on a 2-year plan. It's totally risk-free with their 30-day money-back guarantee. It's honestly a game changer for language learners. I often watch the TV series that you can't get in the UK, but I watch them from Japan because I just connect to Japan and it's like I'm right there. It's fantastic. Imagine being able to stream authentic TV anytime straight from the country that you're learning the language from. Sweden, Italy, Thailand, whatever. So if you want to unlock the world of entertainment and give your language learning a serious boost, then grab this deal at nordvpn.com/Olly Richards. The link is in the description. Now, where were we?
So when Rigby got his samples back from the laboratory, he made a startling discovery. What he believed to be igneous was in fact sedimentary.
Oh my word. David Schwimmer, I'm a big fan of David Schwimmer. I think he's great, but there is absolutely nothing about that accent that I can believe in. It's absolutely all over the place. It sounds like some kind of posh academic at some point, but not quite right. And then right at the end, he kind of switches into this, bloody hell, which is kind of like your stereotypical Cockney phrase that you're going to learn. Let's have another listen to that bit.
So when Rigby got his samples back from the laboratory...
Someone speaking with a posh accent like this is not going to say samples. Most likely they're going to say samples. This is something that people often struggle with British English, and I guess English accents in general, is that we have different types of vowels. So British English is very open, like this, and often some of our vowels are quite long. And so people studying the British accent will pick up on a few of these things and then just kind of blanket apply them to everything, which just doesn't really work. And that's how you end up with a very, very inconsistent accent like Schwimmer's got here.
I'm sorry, I've got plans with my sister.
Apparently David Schwimmer's only training was watching old British films, and it certainly sounds a little bit like that. I'm afraid it's going to get an abysmal ranking from me.
Look, are you and Cosmo in this together? I mean, you seem to go out of your way to try to make me feel like a complete idiot every time I see you. And you really needn't bother.
You know, for someone from Texas, this is absolutely outstanding. When we listen to this, we feel it's so English, it's almost too English. The way that she pronounces her words, her vowels, her inflections, it's almost so polished that you kind of struggle to believe that you would actually find someone in real life that speaks exactly like this. And this is, I guess, because in the movies, people do tend to exaggerate a little bit for effect. So you could get a native English speaker speaking this way. It's so polished as to make me think, well, this is, surely a native English speaker who is just, putting it on for the camera. But there is not a hint of an American accent. It's absolutely outstanding. Apparently, Renee Zellweger actually went to work in a publishing house in the UK for a period of time to really listen to the accent and perfect the accent. I think she's done a really, really good job. I wonder if it's that kind of immersion and that interaction that actually helps you really perfect your accent. Overall, surprisingly good.
Brave soldiers of Persia, we have been deceived into attacking this holy city. Alamet has no weapon forges.
Jake is very, very good. It's very, very good. It's very believable. What we see, though, is that there are a couple of small sounds which are just a little bit inconsistent from the perspective of one single type of British accent. We can hear this a little bit at the beginning.
Brave soldiers of Persia!
Brave soldiers of Persia. That's not consistent with the accent. We'd expect to hear brave soldiers of Persia. It's the schwa sound. So when you go Persia, it's like it kind of creeps into some kind of Cockney. These little inconsistencies, it's very, very difficult for the actor. But for a British ear, we do pick up on that and just do a double take. Overall, though, it's passable.
I've bad teeth, bad English teeth. You have to understand, in the 60s, you could still be a sex symbol and have terrible teeth.
What do I even say about this? So this accent was created to deliberately fool British viewers, apparently. And it is certainly quite strange to listen to. You do find people that speak in this way from time to time. It's not particularly common, and it's very, very outdated. It might be something from the 60s or something.
Oh, behave.
But to the extent that you've got a character here who is just totally eclectic, speaks in this very kind of extreme way. Like, to that extent, it's consistent.
You could still be a sex symbol and have terrible teeth.
You can still be a sex symbol and have terrible teeth. I mean, that is perfect. I mean, not a sound wrong.
You Americans are so soft. Your ideas of oral hygiene. Your ideas of smelling nice.
Nice. That's an example of, I think, people over-applying the long British vowels in places that they shouldn't be. So nice almost never becomes nice. I mean, only if you're really, really doing it for effect. So I think he achieves what he wants to achieve here. It's definitely passable.
Silence, you dog! I am Hieronymo. I am Tamburlaine. I am Faustus. I am Barabbas, the Jew of Malta.
Yeah, so it's hard to know what to say about this because if you hear a Shakespearean actor talking with this kind of accent, it's not supposed to be normal. It's not supposed to be every day. But there is something that's kind of just a little bit off about Ben Affleck's English here, and I think it just comes down to which bits you tend to emphasize. So some of the big bold words that he uses are exactly what you'd expect from Shakespearean. He's obviously practiced that little bit of his lines, but then it's in the details when he's not quite paying so much attention that often the gaps start to appear. So let's have another listen.
I am Faustus. I am Barabbas, the Jew of Malta.
Malta, the Jew of Malta. Yet again, we see the long vowel over applied. Malta is how we say it. Malta, not Malta. Like it's just not how we talk. When people try to over apply these British accents, it's almost like they forget the way that a word should be stressed. In English we have word stress, so it's not Malta, it's Malta. The stress comes at the beginning of the word. But then when you get these long vowels inserted, the word almost becomes a little bit different. Malta. You don't want to lose the essence of the word just because you're changing the accent slightly.
Then you may remain, so long as you remain silent.
He's got a little bit of the rolled R, you may remain, which again is very characteristic of this type of acting. It's just the consistency. Overall, I'd say it's slightly painful. Accents are like little love letters to the places they come from, aren't they? Full of history, culture, and a little bit of mystery. They're part of what makes storytelling so powerful, and that's why I make these videos, to explore accents and tell stories. But at Story Learning, we go even further and teach foreign languages, French, Japanese, Swedish. We teach 15 languages in all, but we don't do it the ordinary way. We escape ordinary language learning through adventure and mystery by teaching through stories. See, stories have this incredible way of drawing you in. When you're lost in a story, you absorb the language naturally that way. So if you want to learn a new language or take your existing language skills to the next level, all while enjoying the adventure of a good story, you should check out my free story learning kit. It shows you exactly how this method works, and who knows, this might just be the ticket for you. The link is in the description below, or if you're watching on TV, then you can scan the QR code that you'll see in the corner of the screen.
Doctor, you must understand. I doubted everything, even my mind. I was impotent with fear. I know. But, sir, I know where the bastard sleeps. I brought him there. To Carfax Abbey.
Oh, dear. Now, apparently, this was supposed to be a Cockney accent, and it is absolutely nothing of the sort. There's not a single trace of Cockney in here. There's this kind of very posh upper-class English accent, but then it's inconsistent because we kind of mix like average English with posh English, and then some clearly American sounds creeping in there, and you really, as a listener, you really don't know at all where you are. You don't know where you stand listening to this accent. Let's try again.
Doctor, you must understand.
Doctor, you must understand. There's that long vowels again. Not just understand. Like, it doesn't make it British if you just make it really long like this.
I've seen many strange things already. Bloody wolves chasing me through some blue inferno.
It's funny because in a way it's not so off. It's close. He sounds so uncomfortable in his own skin with his accent, and I think that's the thing that's throwing me.
I know where the bastard sleeps. I brought him there.
I brought him there. There's this kind of there. This is something that people pick up on a lot and try to imitate the there, and they reserve. They notice that we do this at the end of words, but you've got to remember that when you speak in this way, it comes across as extremely upper class, and it just doesn't fit with with the rest of what he's saying, it's abysmal.
Belladonna's unlike any maiden in the kingdom. She behaves without judgment, defies expectation. When I first heard her voice, a tear came to my eye. And that tear turned to ice, and I kept that frozen tear, far from my heart that burns with passion. If she had a wound, I would kiss it. If she had a splinter, I would pull it from her flesh with my lips.
Okay, so James Franco, this is actually pretty good. I mean, the thing about these kind of period dramas is even a native English speaker is going to be putting on a kind of very effective accent of some kind in order to portray the sense of history, right, the sense of time. So everyone always talks a little bit funny. In this case, I mean, I don't think that I would realize that he is not a native speaker. I think I would just assume he's a native speaker putting on a bit of an accent. James Franco is a method actor, and apparently he used to work in McDonald's and used to go around McDonald's practicing his accents all the time. There are a couple of little bits that give it away, and it comes down to the consistency of the vowels and the contractions that we use in English. And so the only little bit that, you know, if I were nitpicking I would probably point out as not being raising a slight flag is, so he's speaking in quite a, not posh, but quite a dramatized way. And there's one part here where he says "t." Let's see if we can find it.
And that tear turned to ice, and I kept that frozen tear.
If you notice, the way that he speaks is very round, has very rounded vowels. And I think if you were speaking in this way, you probably wouldn't contract the "to" into a "t" like that. You say, my tears would turn to ice. You have that rounded sound. But I'm really nitpicking here. But overall, it's pretty good. I think it's surprisingly good.
The sheriff calls us outlaws. But I say we are free. And one free man defending his home is more powerful than 10 hired soldiers.
Now, this is supposed to be a British accent. And I don't know about you, but there is not a single hint of a British accent in this. Now, apparently in the movie, Kevin Costner spent 6 months preparing for this, and the director actually stopped him halfway through the movie and said, your accent's not working here, Kevin. Just go back to doing it whatever way you want to. And it seems like he's kind of gone back into his usual accent, his regular accent, but then there are clearly some little affectations creeping in, and there's some little bits which sounds like he's making a little attempt to be British from Nottingham, as Robin Hood should be. But if I'm right, and this is supposed to be an English accent, well, I don't know what to say.
And one free man defending his home is more powerful than 10 hired soldiers.
Soldiers. He's going for it right there. I'm stuck. Abysmal.
There's only one case that intrigues me at present. The curious case of Mrs. Hudson, the absentee landlady. I've been studying her comings and goings. They appear most sinister.
This is confusing, this one, because his accent is pretty good, and I know that he had a very famous dialect or accent coach for this, and obviously we're going for very, it's received pronunciation. It's a typical sort of Southern English accent, and it's hard to fault anything he's saying. Like, there's nothing really that I pick up on. There's one section in the middle there that I didn't understand a word he said. Where's that?
The curious case of Mrs. Hudson, the absentee landlady. I've been studying her comings and goings. They appear most sinister.
I've listened to that 4 times now. I don't actually know what he said. And this is again, this brings us back to the point of an accent. An accent needs to be consistent. It needs to be clear. And I suspect it kind of betrays a lack of confidence at the heart if you don't spend enough time with this accent. So with Renee Zellweger, we saw with Bridget Jones, she's just supremely confident and consistent in her accent. And that comes from that inner confidence of having lived with the accent. Now, I don't know if Robert Downey Jr. has done that or not. I suspect not, because there's just like a thin layer of film in between me and what is, on the face of it, a good accent. But you can pick up on a few little inconsistencies towards the end. Let's have another listen.
I've been studying her comings and goings. They appear most sinister.
I think it's these little hints of exaggeration here and there which just slightly throw it off, but overall, it's passable.
A pinch is a device which creates like a cardiac arrest for any broadband electrical circuitry. Or better yet, a pinch is a bomb. No, but without the bomb. See, when a nuclear weapon detonates, it unleashes an electromagnetic pulse which shuts down any power source within its blast radius.
Now, this is super interesting because on the face of it, it's quite good, and you've got a lot of the glottal stops that are typical with the kind of Cockney accent that you expect here. That's fine, and that kind of works. But then, because he's speaking quite quickly, what happens is the vowels are often just falling out from underneath him. And from an English ear, when I listen to that, it's like he's taking swings at the tennis ball and completely missing it.
But see, a pinch creates a similar electromagnetic pulse, but without the fuss of mass destruction and death.
And we've got a bit of Australian creeping in there. It's these pesky vowels in British English that are so difficult. I think overall it makes a good effort, but honestly, listening to it, it's the effect on the listener. I find it very disorientating to listen to, and it's kind of pretty painful.
Easy now, your old friend. They're gonna hurt you.
Bert, it's you.
In the flesh and at your service.
You're filthy.
Oh, perhaps a smudge or two. So happens that today I'm a chimney sweep.
See, apparently, after this movie, Dick Van Dyke apologised for what he called a crime against Cockney. Because Cockney is the accent that he was attempting to do here. A little bit like Don Cheadle in the previous clip. But quite how he thought that this was Cockney is beyond me. I don't know where to start with this. Honestly, there is just so off on so many different levels. I'm stumped. It's abysmal.
What a lovely day it is today.
What is this?
I'm so happy to be alive, I am.
Is this a spoof? Or is this for real?
You have to do this, and then I'll pick your pocket, I will.
I got to assume that this is the kind of British accent you do if you are too scared to actually try to do a regular British accent, because it's like every single parody of the kind of, the Cockney chimney sweep dialed up to 11. It's not even a very good effort at the accent it's supposed to be imitating. I honestly hope that I never have to hear that again.
You could be Dame Judi Dench. You could be Hugh Laurie. I say, hello, governor, how are you? And they get so mad at me, and I said, I learned that from Dick Van Dyke.
Oh, my God. If somebody from the UK sees me, they're on me like a pack of wolves. It was the worst Cockney accent ever done. But the guy who taught me was an Irishman.
And who did the Irishman get his accent from? Now, how are your accent skills? Do you think you could do better? Well, why don't you test yourself in the next video where Irish and Scottish accents go head to head in the ultimate challenge? And trust me, it is almost impossible.